What is up, my tricksters? We're going to have a discussion video for today, but before we get into that, guys, I want you to go check out the Your Playmats link in the bottom below. If you guys want to support the channel, this is a good way to do it. You can check out, if you click on that link in the description, it's going to give you 10% off. Also, my code's down there. If you just want to type in the code, you can do that too. Anyway, guys, also, if you guys want to support this channel, you can check out my merch store. We got a variety of options, trickster shirts. I got some stuff with my artwork and my logo, so make sure you all go check that out. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of today's video. Alrighty, now that I got my support the channel spiel out of the way, let's go ahead and we're going to talk about whether Yu-Gi-Oh! Should have a ceiling or not. Now, I'm just going to have some replay footage in the background, something for y'all to look at while I talk about this. But one of the things is that I felt like I need to say is we're going to talk about the why I came to the conclusion that maybe we needed to have this conversation. So, first and foremost, I came to the conclusion that we needed to have this conversation because of all of the discourse and Yu-Gi-Oh news that I have been seeing, but all across the multiverse of the internet. You know what I mean? Across multiple platforms. I've also been seeing that these things have been used as a excuse to dunk on casual players by prominent members of the Yu-Gi-Oh community, who are content creators like myself, who are much bigger. And I don't really like what they're saying. I feel like it's very much a mischaracterization of what casuals want, but I feel like that's something I can talk about in another video. This video is to talk about like why I think Yu-Gi-Oh might need that ceiling and the pros and cons of that. So that's the news, the discourse, ban list, all this stuff was the reason why I thought, okay, maybe we need to talk about it because this format is absolute garbage, and a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh players don't like this format. The casual player base has been complaining about it for weeks, which is basically, and rightfully so, this format is, gross. Nobody likes it. Nothing interesting is winning. It's all just one deck winning, and the two other decks that are winning are both equally as toxic. They're just not quite as good. So it's like, leaves an ick in the mouth for taste. Anyway, so it makes me think like maybe it is time for Yu-Gi-Oh to have a ceiling, a certain power level that is acceptable. So let's talk about the pros, then we'll talk about the cons, and then I'm going to leave it up to you. So the pros of having a ceiling of Yu-Gi-Oh, meaning that we'll all know what to expect. Knowing what to expect would be extremely helpful, I think. It'll be like, okay, we know that the best decks are going to be that these 3 to 5 decks are going to be the best decks. Here's in that level, the next underneath it. If we know there's a ceiling, we can put tier 1 right there, and then the goal would be to make Rogue right here. Did you see the distance between it? So tier 1, then Rogue right here, just hanging out. This is where tier 2 needs to be. Because right now, this is the difference between 1 and 2. 2 needs to be up here. Okay? So if we have a ceiling, that means we can bring that ceiling down and make 1 where it doesn't go past that ceiling. So the pros would be there is like, okay, we kind of, like I said, we'll know what to expect. We'll know that Yu-Gi-Oh's never going to get more broken than this. There's never going to be something that does anything crazier than what's the crazy thing that's happening now. You know what I mean? Like, Konami's ban list will strictly limit that out. But the truth is, right now, currently in the game, that's not how that works. There's a shit ton of crazy out there, and we're all just like, ah! You know? There's a lot of, like, especially with a lot of new cards, that a lot of players are like, oh god, I have to spend so much money just to get these staple cards that kind of go in everything. And I can go into that in another video on the details on that. But the point that I'm getting at is like if we had a ceiling, some of those cards would be limited, or Konami would stop creating cards that are just so like beyond unfair. You know what I mean? Or unfair without purpose. You know what I mean? The cons, and this is the ones that I have the biggest focus on, and the reason why I don't think that the ceiling will happen is because even though I think it is getting time to have a power level ceiling, the big reason why I don't think Konami will do it is ultimately money. I think that if the Yu-Gi-Oh game had a ceiling, the cons are that yes, we know that there will be certain players who will stick to their deck. Period. You know, They're going to be like, ah, well, if I know that this power ceiling can't be broken under any circumstances, then there's no point in getting a new deck because I know my deck really well. So basically the idea is like a skilled player will just refuse to buy new cards. And Konami is a business before they are a game company. Let's face it. So, there's a myriad ways for them to make money. But the truth is, if we're not buying new cards, they're not going to probably not bother making a ceiling. So that being said, I think that even though I think it is time for us to have a ceiling, I think ultimately Konami is going to care more about their pocket. But their pocket can be also threatened by the lack of ceiling too. So I don't know. That's one of the big cons. Another con I see is like the competitive player base dying off more. Which, look, I may disagree with a lot of things that competitive players believe or say, but at the end of the day, that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be here at all. And I do worry that if there was a ceiling, there wouldn't be enough of them to warrant the existence of like tournaments. You know what I mean? So it's a bit of a balancing act, which I think Konami OCG is doing better at dealing with than Konami TCG is, if I'm being brutally honest. Yeah, because there's a lot of cards that need to go, and they're not gone. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think. Is it time for Yu-Gi-Oh! To have a ceiling, a power level that is acceptable and reasonable, that cannot be passed? Let me know in the comments below. Before we get out of here, though, I would like to remind you guys to be nice in the comments. If you are rude, I will delete your comment. I am mean enough to do it. Don't be mean to each other, and don't be mean to me. Well, you can be a little mean to me, but don't be mean to each other, because that's where I draw the line. Alright? So anyway, guys, I'm your friend, everybody, Yu-Gi-Oh! Superhero, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.